Hi, Ashley. It's good to see you again. I am glad that you submitted your work for me to review. I do want to point out that I am not allowed to comment on the actual content of it because that's up to you to figure out what to put into it. That's also up to you to ask your instructor first if you have specific questions on the formatting because my field is English, so I'm not an expert in, the business field or anything like that. So in terms of what your instructor wants, that always takes precedence over APA. For instance, there might be a specific organization or format or template or something that your instructor gave you that would always take precedence because that's what APA even will tell you. They will tell you that your courses may require something different from what they tell you, but their specific style is basic for across all disciplines. It just depends on the modifications that a particular instructor would make for a course or an organization or something like that. So I do want to point out that I didn't comment on the actual template because I don't know what your template is in your course. I don't have access to your course. That's up to you to ask your instructor. So I just wanted to put that out there because I don't want you to rely solely on what I'm giving you. If you have specific questions about your content or the formatting in terms of what belongs in it, something like that would go to your instructor instead of me. I am only commenting on the writing itself. So um, that's I just wanted to make sure you understood that so that you're not just solely relying on my feedback for you. What I did do is I also commented on errors that you made, but I didn't go through and proofread and mark every error because, again, that's editing papers for students, and that's not what we do. We want you to recognize types of errors in order to improve your writing. So I did only mark each type of error only one time over here in the margins. So once you see a type of error commented on in the margins, it's your responsibility for checking the rest of your paper for similar errors. Again, that's just to help you improve your writing instead of editing papers for students because that's not what the writing service does. So I do want to point out that your running header is incorrectly formatted in terms of APA. In APA, you have two different headers actually, even though it looks like one. On the first page, the cover page, you would include the words running head with the colon. The H in head is lowercase, believe it or not. Also, there's a colon after that, and then the short title that you have, and it should be a shortened title, an abbreviated title here, not the whole one that you use here. That would be in all capital letters. In addition, the page number belongs over here, even with this margin. So this, again, this screener will help you. It's a little video to show you how to do it. And just keep in mind that you're going to have a different running header on the first page as the second, because after that, any consecutive pages after the first page won't have the words running head on them. They'll just have the title and the page number. So you have to virtually collect or connect or create two different ones. So you're not going to have one. It looks like one, but it really is two. Down here, I put a comment because you have extra gaps between your headings here. And even though it looks double spaced and you'll have it checked double space, Microsoft Word adds a default space anytime you hit the space bar or the enter bar. So what you have to do is you have to manually take that out. To do that, typically you want to do it ahead of time. And so to do it ahead of time before you write, so you don't have to keep doing taking out the default after every time you hit that space bar, that enter bar, you click on this downward arrow in the paragraph box. Again, you're in the home button here in the menu. So you click this diagonal angle, this little arrow there, and you check this box. It says don't add space between paragraphs of the same style. So you check that and hit OK, and that will take the default out of there for the rest of the time you're writing your paper. But if you've already written your paper like you have here, then you have to go back and you have to highlight the area, okay, that you know that that's happening with, and you come up here to the up and down arrows here. This is a little icon for line and paragraph spacing, and you click this downward arrow and see, notice you have double space checked, right? But if you look at the very bottom of that box, it says remove space after paragraph down here. So removing space after paragraph is what you want to click, because notice how that pulls that together. And you have to go and you have to manually take that out throughout. I can't do that for you, but I did want to show you how to do that. So now you can go back and you can fix that. Not only there, but if you have it anywhere else. Like sometimes it'll do it after your headings. Like this one looks like it did it. So if you click here, Yep, it says remove space after paragraph. So this one has the extra default. So you need to fix that too. Okay, so I would go through all your headings like that and make sure that you're and even sometimes between paragraphs it does it. It did it here, but this is part of your paragraph there. So yeah, you'll just have to check, like this is in a regular essay format, but if you were writing regular essay format, like this is not normal for APA having extra spaces in here like that between paragraphs. You would continue on so that you don't break the flow. Okay, so anyway, let's move up here so we go back to where we were. Again, I want to point out that I'm commenting on APA general format for essay writing. This to me looks like you're supposed to follow sort of a business plan protocol or something like that. And so whatever your professor provided for how that is put together takes precedence over anything that APA would give you, okay, or anything I would give you. Your instructor always comes first with what your instructor wants in the course. And also the course content will also take precedence over that. So again, I just want to emphasize that APA is a general guideline for lots of organizations and lots of people use it, but they will even tell you in their blog and their website, it will tell you that anything from your classes comes first. All right, so one thing they do say on page 27 of the manual of APA, they say not to use the word introduction as a heading in your work. So again, that whatever your professor tells you, if your professor wants you to have that, that's fine. If not, my suggestion is to use what APA recommends, and that is to put the title above the text right here, centered above the text. That is not the same thing as the running header. The running header still has to be on here with the page number over here, but the title, the full title, goes above the text centered without any extra spaces between. Also, I wanted to point out, well, that's I thought I put a heading comment over here, and I think there's one maybe on the next heading or something, but the headings themselves they're not underlined and they're not in all caps, okay, and whether or not they're bold faced depends on the level heading. Okay, there's several levels of headings. This one is really the title is not even counted as a heading, so it's typically not bold faced and it's not underlined, and it has important words beginning with capital letters rather than all caps. Okay, so again, up to you to find out from your instructor, but that is the typical way. Also, in APA, paragraphs are indented. Again, that's for essay form. If this is like a business plan or something like that, you have to follow what that form requires. So I did want to point that out just so that you're aware, if not for this document, but for future work. The only paragraph that's not indented would be your abstract. Okay, your abstract's not indented. And again, I didn't see one on here, but again, that depends on your instructor in the course. So here, I did point out also for formality, typically you want to avoid first person. If you're supposed to and you're directed to do that, then go ahead and keep that throughout. But I did want to point out that typically APA, they emphasize that should be in third person, and that's because APA writing itself is scientific writing, and scientific prose indicates that researchers should be objective, and objectivity would be, if you want to be objective, you want to write in third person rather than subjective first person or second. So again, depending on what you're writing, that's up to your instructor and you to figure out if you're supposed to keep that first person in there throughout. I see it again throughout your paper, so completely up to you to find out, but for future work when it's just essays, I'll make sure that it's in third person. Also, here's my heading comment. I did want to point out that headings are different levels. Now, there's a great website online if you don't have an APA manual handy, and I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's the Purdue OWL Writing Lab. In the Purdue OWL Writing Lab, there's a sample APA paper. So you can go in there, you've got the URL up here, and I wanted to point out here, just to show you, that these are level headings. So this is a level 1 heading because it's in the middle of the paper. It's not the title. I'll show you that in a minute. But down here I wanted to show you that this is a level 2 heading right here. And then these are level 3 headings. And I see you have both levels in your paper. So I did want to point out that this is a really good website to see that sample. I also want to show you the cover page here. Up here, and what I like about this site is it annotates everything for you. There are a few errors I see occasionally in here, but for the most part, it's like 95, 97% accurate. Okay, so it's a really good site to go to. It's got all this information. It's a wonderful site. But this is the running head I was talking about. So you have running head, and then you have all caps, and then your pagination here, and then your title on the page, right? Then on your next page, you don't have an abstract, so that's okay. But do notice the abstract's not indented so that when you do decide to do an abstract, you know how to do that. Then on your cover page, or your first page of narrative, first page of narrative, this is the title above the text, centered, double spaced above the narrative, okay? And then notice how it's not bold faced, but down here you have a level 1 that's bold faced, okay? So I just wanted to show a couple things like that, and see your page number here. So those are some things I'm seeing missing on your paper. Okay, and so I know I'm taking a long time. I apologize. I'm going to try to get through this quickly for you. Level 2 I already told you about. I also wanted to point out that before you jump into a list, you want to set it up for your reader. So you have to think about the writing from the reader's perspective. You might want to have a line or two. You know, it doesn't have to be long, but explain what this is. At least have a sentence to set this up for the reader, so you're not just jumping into a list. And in the same case here, you're jumping into a graphic without having the graphic properly formatted for APA, and without setting it up for the reader. The reader doesn't know what this graphic is. So you have to write the text to help the reader. You're like the director, right? You're like the tour guide. When you want to direct your reader to what this is, refer the reader to it the correct way, like see figure 1 or whatever it is that you decide to label it. But set it up for the reader so they know what they're supposed to be looking at there, okay? And I put a tutorial over there to help you with that as well. Down here, again, the headings. So as long as you look at those headings and figure out if those are correct, again, follow your instructor's rules, but just be aware for APA, the correct headings, and also the correct APA format of indenting paragraphs. From what I see, the sentences look great. I mean, you're a good writer. You've always been a good writer for me, right? I know you're a good writer. So the sentences are great. It's just the formatting itself that I would wonder about, to check with your instructor on that, and a couple of the things like that with APA. Just setting up things. And so the only other thing I mention here is your reference page, because I do see some issues with that. I put a list here for some items to check over. For instance, the word references, it should not be in all capital letters. Look at the extra spaces between all these lines, right? And entries, and they should be double spaced. Don't forget to go up and check that and get those double spaced extra default lines out of there. In addition, I see retrieval dates, that's an MLA formatting rule, not APA. You only put retrieved from and the URL for that part without this date in here in comma. Those shouldn't be there. But the title's missing. And so, I mean, not the title, well, both the author and the title. So those two things are missing. Sometimes you have to, look to see what it is. And if you don't see what it is, you have to dig a little bit to find out. So if you don't have the author, then you can use the organization site. So it looks like there's a manual here, so strategic planning of something. There has to be an organization or somebody that put this together, and there should be a title of what this is. And so the author goes over here, or the organization if it's in the place of the author. APA also has information on that. I put some tutorials over there for you. And then over here, what is the name of the page? Even if you don't have a name there, you can use the first few words on the page at least to tell what it is, right? So those things are missing there, and the extra spaces. Also, I see incorrect capitalization in APA. In the title, only the first word of the title and subtitle would be capitalized, and any proper nouns would begin with a capital letter, but the rest should be lowercase. I see, the spacing I mentioned already, the retrieve from, and then, the italics. So if you only have the title of a page and it's not a journal or something like that, or a chapter in a book, if the titles then should be italicized, like right here. This would be italicized. Okay, so I'm running out of time. I hope this was helpful.